At this time, we will reconvene our meeting from executive session. In attendance this evening, Director Peterson, Director Griffin, Director Moore, Director Wilson, and our oldest board member, Director Barney. This time, I would ask that you stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's good to see you all this evening. This time the chair would call for an approval of our meeting agenda.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda August 27th, 2013 as submitted.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I just have a question. Is there anything we need to add to tonight's agenda? Any other things that came out of executive session or anything that we need to formally add? Are we okay with where we're at? I'm just trying to recall. I'm not saying
believe,
certainly.
Yeah,
I'm just asking.
I believe we're okay.
Okay.
Everything's in
Yep.
place.
Sounds good.
Do we have a second?
I'll give a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Board members, each of you should have a consent agenda before you. It was posted, I believe, yesterday for your viewing pleasure.
And Mr. President, I move the Board of Education approve the consent agenda of August 27th, 2013 as submitted.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries unanimously as well. This time we'll have a presentation from Superintendent Rob New.
Well, good evening, directors, and welcome to the 2013-2014 school year. It is upon us, and our students arrive Wednesday of next week. So, ready or not, here it comes. I'm excited about this school year, and I'd like to take a few minutes tonight to talk a little bit about the outlook of this school year. Before I do, I'm just going to do a really quick drop back at some of the district successes that we had in 2012-13. Of course, beginning with the passage of the capital levy and the rebuild of Federal Way High School, the security cameras and playground upgrades. We were one of 7 districts to win the national Race to the Top district competition, netting $40 million for the region, and I'll talk a little bit about that work tonight. And of course, our academic acceleration policy has increased student participation district-wide in the secondary, or actually in the high schools, by about 200%, with each subgroup growing a minimum of 100%. And that has resulted in all 4 of our comprehensive high schools being named in the Washington Post Challenge List among the top 9% of high schools in the nation. We earned, because of this work, a College Board AP Honor Roll designation. And of course, you were recognized as a Board of Distinction for this work. And one of the highlights of last year was when we had the opportunity to host the launch announcement of Free the Children's We Day Seattle at Federal Way High School. So hopefully we can begin, as we look forward, that we can kind of propel ourselves off those past successes into 2013-14. But I will say that the initiatives that we're working on that are listed on this screen right now, some of them aren't quite as exciting as the things that we just showed, but they're extremely important. And as the next couple of board meetings move on, including tonight, there'll be some presentations pertaining to this work that the district is undertaking throughout the 2013-2014 school year. As you know, we're in the midst of a significant software migration from our old platform, which consisted of some outdated software, to a new state-of-the-art student information system. And I want to thank Sally McLean and Ron Mayberry for leading that enormous project as we completely revamp all of our software in the school district, which includes a new and upgraded gradebook to support our standards-based grading system. As you know, we're one of, I believe it's 46 states now that are moving to the Common Core state standards, and that is another significant initiative that is now officially into implementation phase. The good news is that our work with standards-based education has prepared us for the move to the Common Core. You also know that the Washington State Legislature passed a year ago the new, what they call TPEP, Teacher and Principal Evaluation Program. And so that now is going into implementation phase, and that has some significant implications on how our staff is evaluated and the process by which they have to follow. This is also the year that we will be asking you to consider taking before the voters a renewal of our EP&O levy that was passed 2 years ago. At that time, with the uncertainty of the economy, we felt it would be best that we do a 2-year EP&O that was successful, and it's time to go back to the voters again, or to at least to bring to you the consideration to go back to the voters for a renewal of the EP&O levy. I talked about the Race to the Top district. You're going to have a presentation from Jessica DeBarros, who works at the Puget Sound Educational Service District, and she is the project director for the Race to the Top, and she'll give you a rundown of the work to date and the work that will be coming forward soon. We just officially submitted our first competitive grant application for investment fund number 1, which is directly tied to teaching and learning. Last year, we began our Global Learning Initiative, and I'll be talking about that tonight, the steps that we're about to be taking as we move forward, as we move our campuses to global campuses. And an exciting development is that we are now creating, we're in the process of creating an early learning department with a focus on bolstering our early learning initiatives and programs, which also ties in directly to the Race to the Top work. And as you know, at the discretion, or the direction I should say, of this board, we are still continuing the work of moving toward a one-to-one technology environment for our students throughout the district. And we will continue that work this year, and Ron Mayberry will provide updates in the near future. So, our focus for this year. And I'm going to start with some data that I'd like you to consider. Some of this will be review, but the 2010 U.S. Census Bureau indicates that children of immigrants currently account for 1 out of 4 students in the U.S. By 2018, fewer than half the children in the U.S. will be white, and by 2043, whites will no longer be the majority of our nation's population. We've known this. We've been talking about this. So how does this impact us? Well, in Federal Way, we've already experienced the demographic shifts that are occurring throughout the rest of the country. But we also know that children born in 1997, this year's senior class, if you're African American, you have a 1 in 4 chance of going to prison. If you're Hispanic, a 1 in 6 chance of going to prison. We also know that in the South Sound, this is from the Community Center for Education Results, I presented this to you several times, this particular slide, that kids in the South Sound aren't graduating high school. Our graduation rate in Federal Way has been hovering around 70% for many years now. Those who do graduate and go on to college are in need of remediation, and yet we have one of the most diversified and highest tech economies in the nation, if not the world. We have 4 board end statements that you've given us. And the first one reads that each student will graduate with the skills and academic knowledge to succeed as a responsible, contributing member of a global society. And these are our trend lines by subgroup, which basically tells us that we've, again, some of the groups are moving up and down over the last 3 years, but we're basically hovering around that 70% as a district. So, last year, as we looked at our graduation data, you approved this progression, moving towards a 92% graduation rate for the district that coincides with the goals of the Community Center for Education Results Roadmap project that we're a part of, same districts that make up the Race to the Top consortium. But we would like to up that ante because we believe that all students can graduate on time And we're targeting this year's freshman class to be 100% graduated in 4 years. And in particular, we're putting our resources and our focus on the ninth graders who are African American, Latino, Latina, and Native American, because when you look at their subgroup graduation rates, I think we could call them crisis. And we believe by focusing on these students and our resources, our energies, that ensuring their success, that all students, and kind of the analogy that all boats will rise, all ships will rise, all students will rise as we focus our work on these students who, year after year, are not being successful. And what we're calling this is understanding the real problem. The real problem is we have these kids aren't graduating. Board's end statement number 2 reads that each student at every grade level will perform at or above state or district standard in all disciplines. Each student's progress shall be measured annually by academic growth. Last year, Dave Davis presented to you the following 4 slides, and you agreed that these academic trajectories would be met, these growth trends would be met by the year 2017. So as you look at these slides, the areas that we targeted, the grade levels that we targeted were 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 10th grade, and the areas were math and reading. And I'm not going to read each starting point and ending point, but you can see as I flip through these slides, we've got some ground to make up. Now, OSPI just released last year's test data, and we're in the process now, I call it scrubbing it, the final piece. Even though they made the announcements and they posted the information, we're still going through a process where we're validating those final numbers, and we'll be able to come to you and show you where we're at in making our progress on that academic growth trend line. But in the meantime, target number 2 for this year, focusing on ends number 2, is that all of our students will enjoy reading and be successful readers early. This coincides with our early learning work, and that, as you can see here, we are focusing our English language learners who are coming to us with as second language learners. And right now, their proficiency rate by the 2nd grade is about 36%. And so we are focusing our work on these children who are struggling readers early on to ensure their success. And as you can see, our goal is to ensure that 80% are reading at grade level as kindergartners, 90% at the end of 1st grade, and 100% by the end of 2nd grade. And we also know statistically that students who are proficient readers by 2nd grade don't get referred to special education and are on track to be graduates. And our 3rd target this year is a focus in math for our students who are African American, Pacific Islander, Latino, because again, these boys are not successful in mathematics, and therefore they're not graduating. And our goal is not only to make them successful, to ensure their success in mathematics, but to also see the relevance in the application that math has in their lives, and hopefully can tie them to a future in which they see themselves heading towards. This is aggressive. This is necessary because we know that these groups of students are not successful, not only in Federal Way, but throughout the United States. We're calling it what it is. These students are struggling. We've got to ensure their success. By doing so, we believe that all students will succeed. Oops, I went the wrong way. I'm sorry. So now, how does the Global Learning Initiative fit into this work? As you recall, end statement number 1 talks about each student graduating with the skills to be a contributing member of a global society. I've shown you these slides before, so a quick review. 40% of our jobs in Washington State are related to international trade. Boeing, as we know, is a significant player in the international market. The slide that still gets me is the agriculture, how much of an international player we are in the agriculture. And that Washington state economy ranks 2nd in the new economy, which is knowledge-based, global, entrepreneurial, and innovation-based. Those skills we talked about last year here at the board meeting are the skills listed above. Producing students that are confident, have networking skills, are risk takers, alert to opportunities, passionate, creative, globally competent, possess uniqueness and not afraid to demonstrate it, and at the same time, empathetic. In addition, and I found this really interesting, I didn't know this till recently, that Utah is the first state in the nation that has adopted a really aggressive second language program. And so Greg Roberts, our language immersion specialist from Utah State Office of Education, says that monolingualism is the illiteracy of the 21st century. Dr. Yang Zhao, who spent the day with us last December, who's noted for his work as a lecturer, an author, an international educator, says the first thing that we as educators must do is change to a global mindset, to accept the reality of globalization and seek opportunities, rather than to get distracted by the problems of the past. So, as you know, we've embarked on signing MOUs with Koreans, with Korea, Chinese, developing relationships with educators and children and parents in China, Australia. This is a high school mosque in Indonesia. Another school in Indonesia. So we're developing partnerships in Indonesia. And just earlier this month, we had our first formal visit from a delegation from China, of which President Moore and I visited last April from North Yukai Experimental School. So our vision is something that we don't necessarily have the resources or capacity to do yet, but moving forward, through our Global Learning Initiative, our objectives are to learn from international educators, because we know that we're the only country in the world that really hasn't been traveling the world learning from the rest of the world. We are developing international partnerships, sister schools. We've had some exciting exchanges already occurring with Thomas Jefferson High School and Brighton Secondary School in Australia. We want our students, my goal is to have all of our students graduate with an international study abroad experience. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. We already have a staff exchange in the works with one of our teachers and an Australian teacher that hopefully, if the J1 visa can be worked out, we'll be having her present to you in the near future about that experience coming up with her going to Australia and the Australian teacher coming to Todd Beamer High School. We believe that through the Global Learning Initiative, we can develop revenue streams that will sustain this work, and that we are an international community and we have assets that we're not tapping. So the 5-year targets, would love to see 100 students from international students here in Federal Way per year. I believe that we can generate $1 million in revenue annually that will sustain this work, as well as potentially contribute to other areas in the district that can fund the student exchanges, can fund the staff exchanges. Would love to have every school in the district have a sister school relationship with an international school, and am in the process of embedding a world language in every one of our 23 elementary schools that will eventually feed up through into high school. I believe that every student should be in a world language K through 10, if not preschool through 10th grade. And that they leave our school system not only with that study abroad experience, but it's linked to a culture that they now understand. They need to be biliterate and bilingual. They need to understand at least one other culture, if not more. They need to speak at least 2 languages. When I had the opportunity to go to Korea in July as a guest of the Korean consulate, I was on a bus for 5 days with educators from 22 different countries. I was the only monolingual speaker. Many people on that bus had up to 4 to 6 languages. The rest of the world is laughing at the fact that we are the only society that speaks one language. And I really believe that in order for our students to be competitive, not only here, because of our economy, because of who our neighbors are, but because they need to have opportunities beyond Federal Way that extend throughout the world. Because we know that for the first time in the world, in the history of the world, because of technological innovation, that everybody has a skill that's of value someplace in the world and in real time. And I just heard the other day, I was working out in the morning and heard that Mark Zuckerberg has this plan to really expand the internet. But by next year, 39% of the world, 39% of the world's population has internet access. And you know that's going to continue to grow. In her book, A World-Class Education, Lessons from International Models of Excellence and Innovation, Vivian Stewart identifies these 5 themes from the world's best or top-performing education countries, which include Singapore, China, Finland, Canada, and Australia. That these countries have long-term vision, sustained leadership at the top, ambitious standards throughout their system, commitment to equity, and a laser-like focus on developing high-quality teachers and school leadership. I firmly believe that Federal Way schools, from the board through all of our employees, possess these 5 characteristics, and that we're ready to take this step not only on the global initiative work, but also in our targeted work on who our struggling learners are, because we're only as good as our last learner. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, board members, comments?
So I would like to say, I think, all the targets are very bold and courageous targets. I'm looking forward to hearing the action steps and plans for actually seeing those targets through and making sure that we have the right people on board to see those actions through. I'm extremely excited about the global initiative work. Most people don't know that before I moved here, my daughters were in a K-8 language immersion program, so they had the opportunity to learn in either French, Japanese, or Spanish. And their coursework, their culturalization, if that's a word that you can use, but their daily educational opportunities were based on which language they chose. One of my daughters at 14 went to Japan and immersed herself in the Japanese culture, and now she's in college. Her goal was always to be a medical doctor, but she has chosen to study along with the medical field, but different cultures, and how when you apply medicine or when you work with people around their health, how does culture play into that? And so I think it's very, very important for our students to have a global perspective. Last year I went to Peru and was able to see the educational system in Peru and see how much value parents in that educational system put on education for their students, and they're willing to pay for it to make sure their kids get the education that they deserve. And then just this past Sunday, I watched a film called Girls Rising. And if you have not had the opportunity to see Girls Rising, I would recommend that everybody see this. But basically, it was around 6 young girls in developing countries, Africa, India, Pakistan, and it was around the value of education and how hard it is for girls in those countries to get educated because their minds aren't valued. It's their bodies that are valued more than their minds. And so I think in the United States of America, we take advantage of the education system, and our students need to know what kids in other countries go through to get an education and be able to be role models and communicators with kids in other countries and encourage kids in other countries, and for kids to come here and be able to participate in our education system. I think this move is huge. It's huge for our students, and I definitely think starting with preschool will be very valuable in those informative years when their brains are forming and they can actually grasp a language, and they don't have biases at that age. They don't necessarily have implicit biases at that age to culture, but they can learn and respect culture at a younger age.
Thank you, Director Griffin. I just want to add that in talking with the Koreans, they would really like to start a winter school here. And meaning that they'll send middle school age students here for 2 to a maximum of 4 weeks for embedded intensive English immersion. And the reason they want to send them that young into an international experience is they call it, they don't want their tongues to harden. And so starting that language acquisition, those skills earlier, is no question physiologically the right thing to do. But then the kids have to have an experience abroad where they're immersed in it. Otherwise, like any of us, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Great. Director Peterson?
I just want to say I appreciate just obviously your candidates tonight in just talking about where we're at as a district. I know this isn't the first time we've heard about it, talked about it at a board level or with the community. I know a lot of times studies, test scores, all this stuff can come out, and I think it's just good to remind the community that we're doing business eyes wide open around here, that we want to know what is the hard facts, where's the data, and where do we need to take steps. And with some of the goals and stuff you've given, I just look at that going, that is a lot of heavy lifting. And I know it's not just on the backs of teachers, it's going to be on the backs of engaging parents more, on our administration really coming alongside and all those kinds of things to make this happen and make these goals a possibility. And so for me, that is where I look at going, this is going to be a monumental task. But like you said, I feel that if we see one ship rise, we're going to see the whole district rise to a new level, and that's what we want to see. And then as it goes to this international work, our goal, our role as a board is not just to look at where we're at, but where is it going, and to really set the direction of our district. And this is, as some people maybe are not paying attention, this is where the world's moving towards, and this is where this group of kindergartners this year, my daughter is going to be over at Green Gables, this is going to be her world here in a few years. And so for us to be on that, not waiting, but looking to what's happening in global society and preparing our kids for that is not only wise, but it's gonna pay dividends in the long run. And so I'm glad we're doing the work. I'm glad we're taking these steps where some districts are going to be caught off guard and behind, because this pattern of globalization is happening at an exponential level. It's not just something that's going to happen, decades or a century from now. It's happening right in front of our eyes every year. And so, so I applaud our district for taking those steps. And I think now it's how we're going to take these steps well and really set up our kids for success. So thank you.
Director Peterson, I want to go back to the previous slide, the final slide of the presentation. High quality teachers and school leadership. We have got to do a better job in this district of supporting our principals and our teachers with those struggling learners by name. So if Danny Peterson, that little first grader, is a struggling reader, what are his strengths? What is his story? What is it that he needs to be successful? And how can we help that teacher? How can we help that principal bring those resources to Danny to ensure that he's up to speed, and that then transcends to the rest of the class and throughout the school. We are making the commitment as a central office staff to support our teachers with that individual student. And I believe in my heart that every student must be known by an adult in our school district. And that's a lot easier at the elementary level because they're self-contained for the most part. But at the high school, that gets difficult, where anonymity prevails and so does dropouts. Mm-hmm. We've got to reverse that trend. We've got to know our kids. We've got to know their story. We've got to know their strengths. We've got to know their needs. And we've got to ensure their success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Director Wilson.
I appreciate the, excuse me, cradle to college concept and the idea that even 5-year-olds need to understand where they fit in the world and kind of what world language looks like to them. I think it's a wonderful opportunity and time to give credit to people who come to us with a second language and not expect that they get language credit only when they learn English, but that we provide them the credit with the home language that they come with, because that in itself is a bonus. I think that when we think about supporting children, we think of families and we think about larger communities too. And the fact is that teachers can do pieces of it, but teachers can't do all of it. And we have to think about where kids are, not only proverbially before they come to school, and in kindergarten, but also children go through many transitions during a day, whether it's in childcare, before and after school programs, boys and girls clubs, family, friends, and neighbors, and how do we engage those folks in meaningful conversations and supporting them as also being those important adults in children's lives. I think it's incredibly important. I totally appreciate 100% because I think we're never going to be done until we hit 100%. So 92% is great, but 100% is where we need to be, because the 8%, I want to know where they are. I'm always going to ask, where's the other 8%? So 92 is okay, 92 is not okay, 100%. And if we know at 80% by kindergarten kids aren't passing, they shouldn't be in shouldn't go past kindergarten or first grade. I'm not saying they shouldn't go. I'm saying we shouldn't let them leave by themselves without knowing that we've done everything we can do, and we are not waiting till third grade. Again, I would like to see 100% sooner. I think when we think about math, we need to understand that there's literacy involved in math as well, and it provides children opportunities for descriptive language. So as we think about literacy, we can think about it in the context of how that looks in math as well. So I'm thoroughly excited, and I know that this is incredibly important work. I know it's going to make a difference, and I know that if we provide what we need to those that need it the most, others will also benefit, and it's our job to create that landscape and the opportunity for those things to happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of comments. I'm pleased with the goals. I like it that we're being more aggressive than following that 5-year trend somewhere out the way. We'll get them somewhere. I like it to be that aggressive. I always like the idea that we're giving those kids the supports that they need, because that's where we're losing it. I mean, yeah, we give them a grade, and then what do we do from there? We let them flounder. So putting that money in there and supporting the kids where they need it, when they need it, is the best way to go. The global concept, great, because our kids have had the mindset they have to compete against kids from the other countries. They don't have to compete against them in this district. They will be competing with those kids and not against them, to work collaboratively to create programs and concepts that we haven't even thought of yet. The other night I was having a discussion with my daughter, and she says, "Dad, why weren't you doing this 20 years ago?" But I think we have come that way. We are moving faster than most of the other districts in the area, that we are on the verge of becoming the global district. I appreciate your work.
Thank you, Director Barney. I just want to add that I think that the media and the politicians have it dead wrong. That they accuse us as American public education system of not producing world-class education, that our kids are falling behind. But their focus is on the test score. And the test score is but one measure, and it's not the measure. And in fact, as Director Moore and I found in China, and we knew this coming in, but it was confirmed there, they're trying to become like us because they've got to create kids with those 21st century or those new knowledge, competency, skills. But the thing that we did learn is that where we are behind is that our kids are monolingual, and that we're not learning from the rest of the world. The rest of the world has been learning for the rest of the world for decades, and that's where we're falling behind. Our kids have got to be produced. We've got to produce kids who are ready for this global economy.
And you talk about the foreign language. You don't use it, you lose it. I learned back in 7th grade, 8th grade. I haven't used it, so most of it's gone. And with the job that I work at, I work with a lot of people that are bilingual, many that speak languages that I would only love to be able to speak, and I'm trying to relearn some of my Spanish. It's very difficult. As you get older, your tongue just doesn't move the way they would like it to move to make those sounds that they need in order to be able to speak it. Get the opportunity, though. So.
Superintendent New, thank you for your presentation. I think one of the things that such focus on the testing has done, I think, and I've heard Director Barney allude to this on a few occasions, is that it has caused us to focus on a handful of topics to the exclusion of things like the arts. My hope is that at some point we can have a conversation about how the arts actually enhance learning And even though it's not one of those things that is necessarily measured by people 35 and 3,000 miles away, its importance can't be overstated. So all this other stuff is happening, and I hope we can get to a conversation about that and maybe some of the restoring some of the funding to our elementary children who I think their educational experience would be greatly enhanced with the reintroduction of the arts on that level.
And to my surprise, we found that arts education is alive and well throughout the rest of the world.
Yes.
How will you report on progress towards those goals?
We are setting up with our new student information system. We have an analytics program whereby we are going to be measuring targeted students' progress every 3 weeks, every 15 academic days.
Okay.
Outstanding. Without further comment, thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll have public comments. Ms. Poppage, were there? Wow. All right, so we will move on in our agenda. It does appear that our superintendent, as he races back to his spot, is up.
That wasn't enough. Thank you again, President Moore. I just want to take a moment again to welcome. Mike, please. Sorry about that. Out of practice. Just want to welcome everybody back to the 2013-2014 school year. We've had teachers in, principals in now for several days. Gradebook training is happening. We're going to have a presentation on that tonight. The energy level has picked up immensely. Our custodial staff and all of our support staff has been busy getting our buildings ready. And on about 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday the 4th, we turn the key and we start her up again. So welcome back to the school year. It's going to be a great one.
Great, thank you. And at this time, we'll have board comments. I'll start down to my left with Director Barney.
I really don't have any comments this evening. I think following what we're going to be doing this year, the global initiative and all the watching of the students individually instead of collectively, I think is going to be a great boon to our district. I look forward to hearing those reports.
Thank you. Director Wilson.
Can't pass it up. Back to school barbecues. There's all kinds of things happening. So although
Yes.
classrooms may not be open, there is amazing work happening and a lot of engagement of families that are new. I know I spent part of yesterday registering a high schooler and a middle schooler, and lots of ordering of things, but no tech fees. We just signed our thank you very much. My son said, why is there no tech fees? I said, because the school board and the school district decided that was something that we could cover. So take note of what you are paying for and what you're maybe not paying for this year, and hopefully you'll see a difference, and hopefully it'll make a difference. So back to school barbecues are really going well. The other thing I just want to say publicly is that if you didn't get a chance to see Fred rolling around this summer, you missed some great stuff. And I had an opportunity to do some visiting this summer at a couple of the different stops during the day at some of the different apartment complexes, and found many families with blankets spread out in the parking lot, eating lunch and playing games and getting onto the computer. And even toward the very end, there were still new families that were arriving and didn't often or always know that there was something in the bus. So it was a great opportunity to come and talk to the adults that were there and find out how many times they'd visited and whether they knew what was there besides the bananas and the sandwiches and the milk that were on the table. And it was appreciated by every adult that I talk with. And I need to say that. I also need to say that we had some coverage nationally in Huffington Post just last week, I believe. And so there are a lot of people taking note, and it's not only for the academic support, but it's also for the nutritious meals and the support that, how we're providing support in a very business as unusual way. And not expecting families to find us, but really looking to see where families are and supporting them in their environment. So very proud to be part of that, and I always have to tell people what FRED stands for, and now I know.
Thank you. Director Peterson.
President Moore. I want to say good evening to everyone. It's been a busy last month since our last board meeting in July. Lots of different community events. I've really enjoyed having the time talking to different parents, community leaders, business leaders, things at the Salmon Bake, the Fusion event, just hearing people's concerns, hearing parents, what they want to see in our schools, and I enjoy those conversations, time over coffee, just hearing from people. And this summer has not disappointed with people just sharing what they want to see and things that are going great and things that they want to see change. So I appreciate those comments from different people in the community. On the 3rd of August, I had the privilege to hang out with 135 volunteers. We decided to tackle Adelaide and Valhalla and went at it with South King Fire, Communities and Schools, Adelaide HOA, Roots Church, Citywide Christian Fellowship. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. The Federal Way School District Maintenance Department, Federal Way, the PTA, families from the PTA, and neighbors from Valhalla all came together and just to do an extreme makeover of the school grounds there. Over $1,500 was donated. There was a Lloyd's company donated 24 yards of crushed gravel and all that stuff, and people just went to town for 5 hours, and it was amazing what was accomplished in that time. It was a lot of fun just seeing everybody from fire chiefs to pastors to little kids just pulling weeds and making our schools better and caring for them, and knowing that kind of investment by different people in our community is what helps when kids go back to school and they're registering on their first day, just take more pride in their school. And I'm sure it's an encouragement to teachers and custodial staff who are always overwhelmed with just trying to maintain what we have. So that was great, and I hope that we're able to have more groups like that take part in that. And I know too, right now we have the back to school supply drives. I know South King Fire and Grace Church are doing one at the different fire stations. I also know too that Red Canoe and Communities and Schools are also doing one. And just the other day I had somebody dropping off supplies at the fire station, just wanting to help out the kids get back to school. And we appreciate those donations, and we know there's a lot of families that are struggling just to get their kids back into school with the different financial things that are difficult for them. But it shows that people in this community will rally. We want to see our kids do the best that they can, and if it's getting school supplies for them to get them off on the right step, that's awesome. And we're grateful for that. I'm looking forward to this Saturday, going to the Sahali barbecue with my family. They're going to have, they've invited it to Decatur, to Brigadoon, I think Green Gables, Olympic View, Silver Lake, are all invited to this community barbecue. I know they did it last year, and I went to the one over at Twin Lakes, and I just encourage people in the community to come on out. It'll be a whole lot of fun. And another thing is in the Peterson house, 2 things are happening right now. One, we just had kindergarten camp over at Green Gables, and my wife is struggling with releasing our daughter to kindergarten, and all that goes with that. Hannah's thrilled and excited to start. She's excited with the teachers she's going to be having starting here in the school year, and she's excited to ride on the bus. And isn't that what you want to do when you're a kindergartner, is get on that? And I don't know at what point you're not as excited about riding on the bus, but it's obviously when you probably want to start driving a car, and that's going to be a long time for that girl. But also on August 14th, we had the latest addition to the Peterson family, and someday to be a Federal Way School student. Logan David Peterson was born. Mom and son are doing well, so it's been a full month for the Petersons, but we're excited for what's going on here in Federal Way. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Excellent.
Well, first I'll say congratulations again to Danny, and thanks for sharing that great news. I get to hear a lot of students and mostly parents who are excited for their kids to go back to school next week, but actually several students who are very excited about going back to school next week and seeing what the school year holds for them. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity of spending the morning with the new Advancing Leadership Youth class, and I'm very impressed that every year we have a group of students who their focus is on leadership, and they get to learn a lot about their community and how to be leaders in their community, but they keep bringing it back to how they can be leaders in their school buildings and on behalf of education. So I will have the opportunity this whole year to work with them on what their team project will look like and be engaged directly with that group of students. So just excited to know that our kids in Federal Way feel privileged and excited to be a part of our education system.
Thank you. Another year has come. It's exciting. I am excited about the work that is before us, and I want to thank board members for their involvement this summer. We've had a lot of great things happen. Our academic acceleration policy that is now law, and that all that happens as a result of the great work that teachers and principals and students have done. And so this year has got a lot of exciting things coming, and I'm excited to be a part of that this year. Let's move on in our conversation as the hour is growing late, and we at this time will have a presentation from Sally McLean, who is and I believe it's going to move from Sally to Ron Mayberry and Dave Davis. After that, if we can begin to shake the rust off.
Well, good evening, President Moore, members of the board, Superintendent New, staff, parents, and community. It is my pleasure this evening to talk to you about our implementation of the new student information system. And again, this has been a team effort. I've had the great pleasure of working very closely with co-manager Eddie Turcotte and the director of IT, Ron Mayberry, and a number of other folks as we've gone through this journey over the last year and a half. As a reminder, we are implementing a product, one of the EduPoint company's products called Synergy. And just as a little bit of background information, our current student information system, well, really now it's our old student information system because we are live in Synergy. Our old student information system was called Student Plus. It was originally implemented in our district in 1999, and we were informed by the company that owned the Student Plus product that there would be no additional upgrades for their current that current platform. So we went through the process of writing a request for proposal, which was issued in March of 2012, and we brought a bid award to the board just about a year ago on August 28, 2012, and that bid award recommendation was for the EduPoint Educational Systems, which at the time was supporting 2 million students in 200 districts across 10 states. That was going to offer us and will offer us a number of additional options. Sometimes I like to talk about this as you think about changes in technology. If you think about just cell phones and what your cell phone looked like in 1999, if you even had one, compared to what your cell phone looks like now, working with a new student platform that has been designed later takes advantage of newer technology that will allow us to continue to provide a robust system. And of course, one of the things that appealed to us about the EduPoint company was their partner for life philosophy. And we have certainly seen their commitment to the school district as we have gone through this implementation phase in terms of their support, their willingness to be on site, their willingness to think about things creatively, and I have been very appreciative of the level of support that our project managers, Sean Pyatt and Diane Hausman, and others have provided to us as we've gone through this process. So we started this kickoff, we call it the Synergy Touchdown Team. We assembled a team. This is what I outlined to you a year ago that we would be doing. We would have a kickoff meeting. We would obviously go through a lot of work related to data conversion, customization, testing, and training, and we would go live on August 1st of 2013. So I want to let you know where we are with all of that. Here is a list of our Synergy Touchdown team. These folks were the core folks who helped us through this process. It is a broad representation of people with a deep level of experience in the school district, so they were able to bring their perspectives to the table, whether we were talking about the way our current system handled capturing student discipline data and what we wanted to be able to do and how we might be able to do that in the new Synergy system, to rewriting our course codes and reestablishing the district course catalog. So these folks were instrumental to our success today and our ongoing success next year, so I want to thank them. In terms of data conversion, obviously, we've had student data warehoused since 1999. Currently, we have converted more than 100 million pieces of data from the old Student Plus system into the Synergy system. And I have to give a big shout out to Peter Johnson, the database administrator in Ron Mayberry's shop, who has really done the data conversion work in conjunction with his counterpart at EduPoint, Mike Ruppel. They have done an amazing amount of work. I had teams of folks in validating data, so people gave up their spring break, if they had such a thing, to come in and validate data. People came in over the May student-led conference days, and at many other points in times. I've had teams of people sitting together validating data, and I'm pleased to say that the data conversions to date, it looks good. I'm not saying we won't find some unusual things, but by and large, that data conversion is, I think, probably the cleanest I've ever seen in my experience. So we appreciate that work because that gives us a strong foundation and some strong trust as we build the system configuration to provide our staff with an opportunity to have access to better information. So the EduPoint Synergy product, it's really exciting because there are lots of options. It's a very flexible piece of software. There is more than one way, I think, to do almost everything in the system. Of course, that adds a certain level of complexity too. And so when you have so many options, we've had to make some decisions along the way. And that's where that Synergy Touchdown team has been so vital to us. We've made decisions about setup, and again, and implemented those. We've tweaked them. The great thing about the Synergy product is if we've made the wrong decision, it's not that hard to go back in and change it. We don't have to wait for a year to figure out how to redo that. As I mentioned before, the EduPoint support team's been on site for extended periods, supporting us through a variety of processes over the last year. The Synergy Touchdown team has been vital to helping us make decisions, and then we've had weekly status meetings. And again, I do have to recognize the work that co-director Eddie Turcott has done. We have nicknamed him the configurator for this Synergy implementation. He literally has stacks and stacks of documentation of all the kinds of work that we've done about all the kinds of decisions and setup that have gone into the system. Training, and I'm not talking now about gradebook training because Ron Mayberry and Dave Davis are going to talk about gradebook training. But for the student information system itself, our attendance to date, and we started training people in June, and we will actually be training people up through Friday. We have had 990 people attend 116 sessions over 29 days. Now that 990 count is not an unduplicated count. So I might be a data registrar, for example, and I might have come to 4 different sessions, but still during the bulk of this time, we have had 990 people sitting in training sessions. So it has been Gil Boshart and Carol Radford in my office have really coordinated all of that training effort, and I have appreciated their support to make that a vital experience for people. We tried to build capacity when we set up this training by at least initially sending entire school teams. I appreciate our principal leaders for being willing to come in with a session with their school psychologists, with their counselors, with their office staff, so that they could build some capacity and understanding around the new system. Something else that we've also done is run some open labs, so people can literally bring their work into the open lab and say, help me do this. Or I just need a quiet place to work for a while so I can figure this out. Because everybody's on a learning curve, and you know what happens when you're on a learning curve. Things that you used to do automatically takes a little longer. And we know that this is not a one-shot deal. We will continue to support the implementation of the SIS system and the training needs of our staff as we expand the capacity of the system. I told you a year ago that we would go live on August 1st, 2013. We actually went live on July 29th, 2013. That was the first day of training where people had the opportunity to actually start entering data into the production database. I told people all along we've got some pretty primary goals when we're launching this new system. We have to be able to register new students, we have to be able to schedule them, and we have to be able to take attendance. And I'm pleased to say at this point in time that that all looks like it's working well. Attendance we won't actually try out till Wednesday. What's next with the student information system implementation? Well, obviously, we're going to continue providing support, training, building those frequently asked questions, trying to work through different questions that as more and more people access the system, they are finding things that we didn't think about, so it gives us an opportunity to continue to stretch our thinking. One of the things we have to struggle with is providing access to data outside of our firewall. And is that something we want to open up or not open up? It's certainly something people are asking for, and I've been told by EduPoint that more than 50% of their clients are supporting that, if you can host it in a secure portal. We will be launching ParentView, which is the parent portal. Our special education team has been working already on implementing the special education module of the SIS. That's scheduled to go live in 2014-15. Synergy also has a product called LessonView that really is where we will be learning a lot more about LessonView, but are anticipating that we would be implementing that in 2014-15. And then obviously we're already planning, not just for the 13-14 year, but we know we have to plan for our first full year in Synergy where we roll students up a grade level and build new master schedules actually in Synergy. So we will be doing that for the first time this coming spring. So that's where we're at. I forgot to put my normal slide in here. See, I'm so out of habit that says, do you have any questions, comments, concerns? But I am still here to answer any questions,
When
comments,
did you say
or
that
concerns there might
the
be.
parent portal launch? There wasn't a date by that?
You're
then?
correct. There is not a date by the parent portal launch.
So up until there's a launch, how is it that parents are going to, or what would parents be able to access related to attendance or class stuff that they may want to know between the first day of school and something?
You might remember in the past with GoTo, we've not had GoTo available to parents
Late September.
until late September.
Okay.
We're
And
hope-
Okay.
So
is
there
this-
has been nothing for parents. After this year, when we get through this first launch, Parent Portal will be available immediately. Just we can't. We've not been able to what can I say? Parent Portal will not be available on the first day of school. The Parent View will not be available on the first day of school.
And the reason I ask is parents are going to ask how they can track, especially as the kids are older, how they know what they're going to know or don't know before they find that out. And for some parents, they're going to know that with the old system, we never knew it before until the end of September. But new parents may not know that we've never known that information before. And if this is a new launch and parents see that there's no parent portal until such a date. I just think it's important that we frame it and let parents know that this is, it's the implementation of a new system, but the fact is the timeline for parent access is the same as it was before. And how do parents get information that they may want on things that will be available between now and then? Does that make, I mean, it's not more work, it's communicating.
Right, we actually have a meeting tomorrow, or there is a meeting scheduled tomorrow to finish hammering out some of the logistics.
Okay.
So the things we have talked about with Parent Portal is doing a tiered rollout. So the first concept would be, here's your username and password,
Okay.
and oh, by the way, do you know this is an app, so you can download it to your phone?
Right.
And that would give parents an opportunity to validate the conversion of the demographic data. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail
I
here,
get it.
but that would give us that first opportunity. One of the nice things about Parent View, in addition to having apps for your smartphones, is that you only have to have one username and one logon, even if you have more than one student. In the old Parent Portal, you needed multiple usernames and logons. Now you'll be able to see all your students with one logon. And so,
All I'm
that's
saying,
kind
yeah.
of step one. Step
Right.
two would be either the opening up gradebook or opening up attendance, probably attendance, because attendance starts right away. And again, with the work that's been done in gradebook, and I don't want to get too far ahead of them, grades will be calculating now positively with the very first assignment that is graded and entered in the gradebook.
Right, but if
So-
you can't get a grade book until the end of September or October, or we don't know. So I'm not saying we're not doing it right. I just want to make sure that we consider how we're communicating to parents, both those that are new to the district and don't have any idea what they don't know, but those who've experienced the past system with the switch over in standards-based grading. It was very difficult for parents to understand and to figure out where their children were. And I know this system is different and we're going to have access to more information. But I just want to make sure as we make a bridge and we transition that we consider both those kinds of parents in our communication so that parents don't think we've forgotten them or that they don't care and can wait until October to get information on absences or to get information on assignments. That's all.
So
that's
the
all I'm
Connect
saying.
Ed system is up and running,
Uh-huh.
and so those your child was absent call.
Okay.
You know, those
Right.
are ready to roll. We've already
Right.
been using Connect Ed in its connections with the current Synergy system. So that's already working, already generating phone calls. So,
Okay.
you know, at least for the attendance calls, they'll be ready to roll right away.
Director
Thanks.
Wilson, was there another?
No, I just think that we
vehicle?
need to be very, very, very mindful and very intentional
I built
in our communication and not assume that parents knew it before or that they know it now. And I'm not hearing that, but I just really want to make sure, because one of the things that we hear from families is they're not understanding or they don't understand. And so a Connect Ed call is great, and we need to then be very explicit and say, until the parent portal is available, you'll be able to track your child's absences through the Connect Ed phone calls. And we cannot assume that parents make the connection that what's on that computer, you know what I'm saying? And it's not about, it's just about being very intentional and thorough in our communication. And that's just, you know, I just think it's really important, and we don't need to belabor it, but I just think it's, as a parent perspective, that's the critical piece, because they've not been sitting around the tables to understand what the pieces are. So, thanks. I do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
So was there another vehicle, communication vehicle that you had in your mind besides that, or?
No, I think we all just need to know what we need to know, and when parents ask questions, whether it's a school secretary, whether it's the whoever they talk to, that parents don't hear, I don't know, or just wait, it'll come. That as we roll this out, this is brand new. I know we're marketing. I know we're telling parents we have a new system. So just as we do that, I just want to be intentional in our communication and not make assumptions. And we can say, these are, you know, this is what you can do, or this is what you know. And I know we'll do it.
We will,
I know we'll do it.
absolutely.
Director Peterson, did you have a comment?
I said it before. I think for me, no news is good news. As long as we're implementing this, I know there's always little bumps along the way, but if we're preemptively anticipating these kinds of issues and finding different ways of communicating with parents and trying to do that so that, we're doing all that we can do. You know, obviously we've been on this rodeo before with other implementations, and I expect as a board member that we have learned from those past mistakes and that this one will be the best experience yet for parents as we roll this out. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll hear from Ron Mayberry and Dave Davis on our grade book.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent New, Deputy Superintendent Mark Davidson. We're here tonight just to give you a little bit of an update on how our gradebook implementation's been going, primarily around training and those aspects of training and working with our teachers. Before I kind of get started, I do want to mention the people that have been working behind the scenes for this, and Susan Dively continues to be one of our primary contacts with our gradebook. She's done a great job of configuring the system, so I guess she could be configurator junior in the world of configuration. And also our IT team, TOSAs, our Teachers on Special Assignment. Don Brown's been our person who's coordinated all the training, worked with communications with teachers and school sites, etc. Jake Booker has been on site doing just an amazing job of connecting with each of the classrooms, making sure things are going well, kind of troubleshooting. And we have a new TOSA also, Kim Wolf, who's joined us, and she's one of the trainers, but she's also kind of doing a dual role. So I appreciate all their work, and both Dave and I have been kind of co-directors of running our process on the gradebook. So our training started August 21st, 22nd, 23rd at Todd Beamer High School. We had small groups at first, which was nice. Our trainers were able to get a running start at this. Each of them had at least one group of teachers to work with. They sat through multiple sessions so that they could debrief with their colleagues about how the training went, make adjustments so that when we came to this week, where we're literally training over 1,200 teachers this week, they were ready to go. And yesterday was our first really large group. We projected over a couple hundred teachers arriving in the morning. They ultimately had about 180 that first day. Today they taught over 400 teachers. So today was a bit of a long day for our trainers. August 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th was today at Lakota. We'll go through Thursday, and the rest of our teachers will come in and throughout the week. Over 1,400 teachers will be training. And last week we saw a lot of teachers. We invited teachers to come to multiple sessions if they'd like, and we did see some. I think we saw a couple teachers that might have come to as many as 3 sessions to be ready, so that they were ready, and we were able to support them in that. This training has been delivered by 18 of our district teachers, so their colleagues were the ones delivering our training. Our TOSAs helped plan it, they helped coach them, but it's delivered by our teachers. Our training overview, this shows just a little snapshot of the key areas that they discuss in training. Standards-based philosophy, growth trend, conditional matrix, the actual gradebook setup, taking attendance, creating assignments, breakout groups, class websites, and then they got to get into actual production site and start looking at that. So they spent most of the day in their training site, but then they were able to jump into their gradebook. Plus they had time on their own to kind of use what they just had learned in that site. We have been receiving feedback from these folks all week. As I said, we've had 3 major sessions completed. We have 2 more tomorrow, 2 more Thursday, so we'll get more feedback in the next 2 days. But so far, the feedback's been amazing and very positive. So these are just a few we pulled off the board. They had a parking lot board they could put Post-its up on. These are things that they put up. Great job and to the point. Great, great, great. Lots of information, but very supportive and thoughtful execution. Thank you for being so thorough and taking all questions. Excellent but speedy. Loved the program. These are a bit of the constructive criticism that we've seen. One I have this one up here, but one of the biggest criticism was how hot it was today. The building was incredibly uncomfortable, but not much we could do about that, unfortunately. Can we add an ability to post something to multiple classes? So when they're looking at their websites, right now, the way the system's set up by EduPoint, their logic behind it was that you would post for each individual class. Teachers who might have 3 classes of algebra want to be able to post one message that would go to their 3 algebra classes, per se.
So,
Yes.
Director Wilson, this speaks to the parent portal. That there's a class web page that teachers are going to be able to put in documents, assignments, all those types of things, so that when we do initiate the parent portal, hopefully sooner than later, then they would be able, parents and students and their, guardians or whomever would be able to see those immediately.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Will we be integrating ConnectEd into the communications option? So at this point, we do have ConnectEd integrated with Synergy, as Sally had mentioned. As far as it being integrated with the teacher side of ConnectEd, there is no current plans to do that. The teacher side has, it's a different configuration. They pull from kind of pre-scripted comments, and so that's not going to be there at least initially. Need access to the same data from Informer. As you might recall, we had a system called Informer, had many important aspects that was built out in there, and our future brings us, some of this information is in our Synergy information system, some of it's in the gradebook, and we are working on that third product, our data warehouse, which will be brought to our administrators first and then to our teachers, which will give us all the data that Informer had, and then as Dave, I've heard him say, it's Informer on steroids, because it is really pretty amazing, and we're anticipate today we get to start showing it to more people. The critical conversations about this training were really around some of the key pieces in Policy 2420. Power law is a key component in there. We've also referred to it as growth trend, because that's really what it does. It honors the growth trend of a student. And so it's important that our teachers respond to that by honoring the dates they assign, the dates that things were due, and put things in. And when those things are happening, growth trend will help reward students for what they know and what they know most recently. Teachers have asked for a statement for their syllabi, so we're working on that. We have that ready to send out to them. That will be something that they can embed in their syllabi. It'll have a URL that takes a parent and student to another website, a public-facing website that might give additional examples of how power law or the matrix works for their student. The matrix was definitely a critical conversation that our lead teachers had with the teachers in the field. The power of 1 on a priority standard. When a student receives a 1, a calculated 1 on a power standard, at that point it's a failing grade. And what over and over again especially our trainers have had conversation with teachers is helping them understand at that point we're on a 4-point scale. A 1 is it's really reserved for students who are not turning things in, and that there's a need for intervention with the student. There's a need for additional instruction, and so to have that conversation about what that might look like. All 2s equaling an F, that's another piece that brought to people's attention. They had questions about that in that 4-3-2-1. And so even 1-3 in that mix will take it into a C range or a passing range. All 3s and 4s to equal an A. Those were really the 5 big areas of conversation. And Dave and I watched and listened from the back of rooms to many conversations about this. And I think we saw over and over again teachers kind of gathering in on this conversation and being okay with it in the end. They believed in it. They pushed back at first, but through that conversation, and I think that's what you saw in some of those early when you gave us time to converse. There was time built in for this kind of conversation.
And just to be clear, the matrix was commonly known as the sliding scale. You probably remember
Formerly.
that term,
Mhm.
formerly known as the sliding scale. Policy 2420 is the standards-based grading policy. It is now posted, and it's pretty simplistic in nature and pretty elegant in its display. But that policy was adopted based on the leadership of Cindy Black and the Gradebook Committee and the conversations with teachers, parents, students, and this is how we arrived at this 4-point scale and what we call the conditional matrix. So again, I invite you to take a look at that policy, which just took the slide, all that feedback and consolidated into a more simplified version of what was formerly known as the sliding scale.
So one of our key components to this was the leadership that our trainers have brought to this, and so I just wanted to honor them tonight for their work so far. They still have 4 sessions to go, and they're working very hard. We had from the elementary, Erin Ray Smith, Sherry Blair, Heidi Smith, Jessica Gibbs, Katie Smith, Katie Weichert, Kimberly Hoshin, excuse me, Mark, I might have left, I spelled his name wrong. Excuse me, Mark Berge, I left out a letter there. Secondary, Chris Price, Kim Wolf, Liz Davis, Luke Thompson, Miley Jensen, Nicole Coraggio, Paula Price, Ryan Price, Tara Lee, Scott Canfield. And we paired these up, so in every room there was a secondary and an elementary, generally speaking. You can see we're a little off balance there, but that was the goal. And that's been a critical, a favorable decision, because that really helped in those discussions. Regardless of who was in the room, there was someone helping lead those discussions that is in the same place as those teachers were, in a classroom, working with kids, helping out in the conversation.
So the ratio is two trainers to each classroom, maximum about 20 in a classroom, in one elementary, one secondary. So you can see how that common language across all the grade spans is impacting the learning of these teachers as they go forth with understanding the grade book.
So at this point, are there any questions from our board?
Yes, thank you for
Sure.
this great work that you're doing. So around the matrix is set for this school year. That's how grading is going to happen in the grade book.
Mm-hmm.
How are we making that transparent and understandable to students who are accountable for their grades and families who are supporting them with it? Because I think that's the biggest hang up we've heard since we've implemented the policy. They just don't understand how they get their grades and how you get to that 1 or that 2 or that 3 or that 4, and what does the all mean, and where's the in between, and how do I move from one place to the other, and who controls whether I get, there's all those. So how are we making this clear to students and parents?
Well, several things. Obviously, working with the communications department, I know some things are going out in the progress report. Also, we've shared information with all the buildings to embed in some of their newsletters as they go forward. We want to get some of this training going so that, we have some back to school nights coming up. I know we have quite a few elementary teachers and principals. So we started there. We got this in the hands of our principals to prepare for back to school night. We also reflected on was, at the end of the day, a majority of kids asked their teacher how their grade was calculated, right? And so one of our critical questions that we asked ourselves was, what tools do we need to give those teachers to thoughtfully explain how those grades are calculated? And so in this 3.5, 4-hour training, we spend a full 25% on exactly this.
Okay.
How not only the standards-based grading philosophy and education philosophy, but how the grade is calculated, so that they can stand before their students of all ages and be able to say exactly how it got to where it got to, because that's where a majority that we reflected back from our first transition to standards-based grading. Those are the folks that are going to more often than not be able to explain those grades. And again, we've been working with communications, and we have some parent planning and parent nights on the radar screen with Therese Moore be able to bring parents in. We also started that conversation with different parent groups, not only external parent groups, but last spring we started those conversations internally of just Federal Way school employee parents, for example, at the ESC. We brought them in and got some feedback on how things were going with that.
Yeah, I just think it being as clear as possible is going to make a big difference. I can't tell you how many parents had conversations with me or students who said that they would ask the teacher and the teacher said, I don't know. And and so
right.
They can't, so if they know, and Teresa's work has been great as around parents and students being able to ask the right questions. So as much as we can inform them so that they can ask the right questions and be self-advocates.
And I think we also simplified it. We made it much more simple to just look at. And that I appreciate the work in working with the various teams that have come to the table to process our past grading process to now. And it's pretty elegant when you actually look at it. On the policy in and of itself. It's not hard to read. It's not how many ones and twos and then as I go up that, what we formerly called the sliding scale. So, but that is at the forefront of the initial conversation with all of the stakeholders in the buildings to make sure they can explain that. We also had that conversation with interventionists, coaches, and TFL staff. I mean, we have just been making sure everybody can walk out the door and be able to explain it.
And I would also say that as a former building principal at Career Academy talking to parents, the former system made it difficult for those conversations because there was a significant amount of time that would go by before an actual letter grade that made sense to a parent. The in progress disappeared and it went to an ABC at the high school level at least. With this system, the very first grade that's put in will generate a letter grade appropriate for that grade level. So it may be still BAME at the middle school or ABC at the high school, but it's going to be a grade they understand. We still need to continue this work, and I do believe our teachers are better prepared to have that conversation. Some will need reminding, some will need those meeting time at their buildings to continue to review this, but we'll continue to work with our principals to help with that conversation.
Well, thank you for being aware of those concerns.
Oh, absolutely.
And being prepared to address them.
I'm assuming that language then also plays a role in our communications with families and how we're communicating in language. Because I think the other piece is if you're a new parent to a district, it's a very different system. If you're a parent who's been here, it's new, but it's not as new. And sometimes framing it for a parent, this, again, it's kind of thinking about who our population and who our families are. And every year we have a significant number of new families.
Right.
That this is a brand new, and so it's brand new. Then there are others that are in this. Again, it's part of a process of understanding, and we can't ever forget that we have brand new.
Absolutely.
And we just cannot forget that, because if we don't get them when they come in the door, they're never going to come back, and that's part of having feeling, creating that sense
It's
of
embracing
being,
the parent as a partner, yes.
Yes, exactly. So appreciate that.
We wanted to show this last slide as a feedback. This is one of the sticky notes.
So, and we did see a lot of positive. This one stood out as with the heart and coming from a group of secondary teachers.
Yeah.
So it was nice
It was kind of fun.
nice feedback to see. So
Is this love?
It
yes,
is.
this is love.
Further questions, board members?
No, I just remembered that this was one of those things that this wasn't shoved upon teachers. It's something that the whole process of picking this program from the beginning this was the top one picked. And so I'm excited to see some feedback like that. And that's what we hope, is that this is going to exceed people's expectations on just making it easier for them. It sounds like what you're saying. And Director Davis, that's what, a lot of this is, it's simpler, it's easier, and,
More intuitive.
I'd hope technology has advanced a spot now where we're doing that for people. So it looks like that's the case, and I really hope so as we move forward with the school year. So thank you.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's an ongoing training schedule that those that missed this first training can get in on something similar.
Yeah, so we have the next 2 days, but in addition, our IT staff, Susan, will be opening the IT lab on Tuesday afternoons, every Tuesday afternoon, at least through the first marking period. And in addition to that, my other 3 TOSAs will be opening the IT lab on Thursday. We're going to open it as a Geek Bar, and that Geek Bar is going to serve all instructional technology needs, including the grade book. And Jake, Kim, And Don will be in there every Thursday to have great conversations about instructional technology, from devices to open educational resources to gradebook or whatever fits into that category. And then we also have 4 additional gradebook trainings planned for September for new folks or people who would need a review or would like a review.
And each school continues to have what was formerly known as a GPS, is now going to be called an ET for EduPoint Trainer. So they will have an on-staff person who is stipend to support the work and help teachers understand.
Expanded that to 2.
Great.
On your training, you have an opportunity for those who, as I am, technologically challenged parents who could have an opportunity to come in and be able to work on it firsthand within the school. Would there be that available to parents?
I can't answer for schools. I assume that would be a good practice. I know that Dave and I plan on operating a couple evening, maybe more than a couple evening events at the ESC, inviting parents in. And so I do believe we'll have plenty of both from central office and from schools assisting parents with the tool.
Cool.
Anything further? Thank you both.
All right. We look forward to coming back and presenting more information in the future.
If you get a chance to come down to Lakota in the next couple of days, it's quite the undertaking.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. At this time, we'll have a presentation on the bargaining agreement for the Professional Technical Association from Chuck Christensen.
Great. Well, members of the board, Superintendent New, it is my pleasure to bring forward to you tonight for your consideration of approval the tentative collective bargaining agreement between the Professional Technical Association and Federal Way Public Schools. The Professional Technical Association represents positions within business services, human resources, instructional technology, and our security personnel. I also wanted to be able to share with you this evening that the Professional Technical Association has already presented this tentative agreement to their members earlier this month, and they have voted and ratified to approve the tentative agreement. I'd also like to, at this time, pay special recognition to Marion Leach, our Director of Employee Relations, who's in the back of the room, who led the teamwork on this effort, and also give recognition to the other team members, Jerry Carlson, Director of Business Services, Diana Seeley, Director of Contract Services and Risk Management, Jerry Warren, Principal at Illahee Middle School, and Chris Willis, Co-Director of Student Services. It truly does take a team effort to get this work done, and I very much appreciate the time, effort, and thought that was put into creating this tentative agreement. It is a proposed agreement for 3 years, and I believe you had some opportunity to review a draft of that earlier, so at this point I would just ask if there are any questions.
Questions about the agreement, board members? Very well, I believe we're clear. Motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Professional Technical Association and Federal Way Public Schools number 210, effective September 1st, 2013 through August 31st, 2016.
And I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Director Griffin.
Also, this evening, it once again brings me great pleasure to be able to bring to you for consideration of approval the tentative collective bargaining agreement between the International Union of Operating Engineers and Federal Way Public Schools. The International Union of Operating Engineers represents our custodial, maintenance, and grounds employees. The IOUE membership just voted this last Friday and Monday to ratify and approve the tentative agreement. Again, this work relies heavily on the expertise and dedication of a strong team of individuals, and it's my pleasure to give recognition this evening to Sally McLean, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, again, Marion Leach, Director of Employee Services, Shirley White, Facilities and Maintenance Project Manager, Sid White, Facilities and Maintenance Project Manager, and Margaret Peterson, Principal at Kylo Middle School. And as I said, without their effort and thoughtful consideration to the work, we would be unable to get these agreements approved. So again, we have a proposed 3-year agreement, and I would ask again if there are any questions in regards to the proposed tentative agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers.
Questions, board members, for Mr. Christensen? No questions? I believe we have a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the collective bargaining agreement between the International Union of Operating Engineers and Federal Way Public Schools number 210, effective September 1st, 2013 through August 31st, 2016.
And I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion?
I just want to say, Chuck, thank you for your work and for your team and all those that participate in the process. You know, I appreciate unions. It brings democracy to the workplace and the representation there, and I'm glad that we were able to come to an agreement. So
Thank you.
look forward to voting on these 2 contracts.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. President, would you indulge me a brief comment on the grade book presentation?
Please.
I had the opportunity to have lunch this afternoon with Jason Brown, and he was hopeful I'd have an opportunity to relay his comments. He did sit in on the training today, expressed that he was very impressed with the content and the quality of the presentation, and then he also had opportunity to drop into a couple of other sessions and felt that the teacher responses and comments were all very positive. And so, as a bit of objectivity, the association president wanted you to know that he was very appreciative of the training and felt that members were getting good information that would help them get off to a good and successful start to the school year. So thank you for allowing me to make that comment.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This time we will move forward with item 16, Superintendent New on EL1. Do you have comments on?
Just briefly, Mr. President, thank you. Items 16 through 19 all pertain to executive limitations that were presented to the board as in receipt only on the consent agenda July 23rd board meeting. Since then, you were surveyed on these 4 items, and all 4 have come back signifying compliance. So at this time, I'm asking you to take action on the monitoring report and compliance of EL1, expectations of the superintendent, EL2, organizational continuity and executive session, EL7, budget planning, annual internal report, and EL9, facilities program.
Very well. Any questions or comments about any one of these ELs from board members? You all should have received information, and I believe everyone voted on these and has had a chance to look them over and take in information and decide for yourselves what further information you might need and how you might want to vote. The motions are there if apart from any further comments or questions.
President Moore, I approve that policy governance EL1 expectations of the superintendent is in compliance.
Second.
Very well. So moved and seconded. Further conversation? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. EL2.
I approve that policy governance EL2 organizational continuity and executive session is in compliance.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously as well.
I approve that, excuse me.
Yep, please.
I approve the policy governance CL7 budget planning annual internal report is in compliance.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And EL9.
And lastly, I approve that policy governance CL9 facilities program is in compliance.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
I'd just like to say with this one, I think we've taken some good steps in the right direction for this. And, you know, in past meetings, I've talked about, you know, some of my concerns regarding the facility and the programs. And I think that's just, this is going to be one of those ones this next year that I'll be watching very closely to see that we're not just talking about some good things, but actually we're making big steps in those, in different improvements for our facilities. So that's all I have to say about this one. But yeah, as for me right now, I think we're in compliance.
Very well. And thank you for your persistence on that area of compliance to Director Peterson. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And of course, that passes unanimously as well. I believe there is one more motion on the table as it pertains to our educational service, the old
Yeah.
ESC building.
I'd like to move to authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate a purchase and sale agreement for the former ESC within the parameters approved by the board.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? The proposal that is being moved by way of motion this evening is an opportunity for us to sell a building that we are currently not using. It is our old educational service center, and we will be exploring the potential of bringing that revenue back into the district. When the board voted some years ago to move across the street, it was our intention and desire that we would one day sell that and offset some of the expenses of moving by this other building. That opportunity has presented itself, and this motion is merely an opportunity for us to explore what that potentially could look like, bringing revenue back into the district. So for those of you that are wondering what we're voting on. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries unanimous consent from the board. Thank you all very much for that good work. This time I'm going to encourage board members to fill out their board meeting assessment form. Ms. Poppage, as I missed the meeting in July, were there any action items?
There was a request to have the names of policies on the consent agenda, and that was done this evening. And the other one is that you want to report on Fred, and that will come in September.
Very well. Board members, as you're filling out your assessment, if board members have items for action items that they would like to put forward,
Yeah.
now would be a great time for that.
Action item that I'd like to put forward for consideration is I know we've had different transitions this year in leadership staff and throughout the district, dissolving of some positions, creating of other ones, moving around different district staff. And for me, I think it would help me just to get a diagram, organizational chart, yeah, that's probably a better word for it, to be able to see kind of where we're at. So I would move that we would get, I would move that organizational chart would be prepared of the current district staffing by October 15th of this year. If we could get that, I think that would just be helpful for me in just seeing that. So that'd be my motion.
It has been moved. Do we have a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion?
Are we talking just leadership, executive leadership, or leadership at ESC, or
For me, it would go from everything from the top all the way down to school leadership at the administrative levels at our different schools. Principals, assistant principals, that stuff as well. Yeah.
so principals and then assistant principals?
Yeah.
At every level?
Yeah.
Elementary, middle, and high?
Yes.
Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Ms. Poppage, if you will add that to our action items. Further action items, board members? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.